Hi, my name is Vivek Sawan, and in this brief, we'll talk about what are the issues or the main challenges what project manager face. Last video in project management video, I talked about there are 4 or 5 things which is critical for the project, right, or program. One is scope, right? The scope is what we are going to achieve in that period, right? The outcome of that project and program, that's the scope always defined, right, during the initial phases of the project. It's called like a scope of work, that document called scope of work. So in that document the scope is already defined, but when the project starts, right, and the business wants something more extra, they things like, oh, I want like this way or that way. So that way the scope gets, right, the scope get revised and scope get added. So what will happen if it's called a scope creep, because earlier defined scope is now changed to the bigger scope, right? And when the scope creep happens, what will happen? It will impact timeline, and it will impact the cost also, right? Because the scope is bigger now, so that will take longer time to complete, that will take more resources to complete that work, right? So the cost will be increased. So we need to make sure as a project manager, when you running the project or program, scope creeping is not allowed, right? So you have to tightly make sure that what is the defined scope of the project, what is written in the statement of work or the SOW, and what are the things, are these things are achieved or not, does the business adding the extra work in that or not. So that's the one aspects of project manager, that he has to protect the scope. Second is the cost, right? As I mentioned, due to various reasons, the cost might increase because the not having the resources on time, or not having the business readiness, or probably the product is taking long time, the implementation is taking a long time. There are a lot of reasons to increase the cost, right? Because of the time increase, or because of not having the resource, or you might getting the resource on the higher prices because of the crisis. There are so many things, so it's very important to protect the cost of the project, right? Like when we start the project, you always do the effort estimation, and you come up with the conclusion, okay, this is the budget of my project, right? And that's a baseline budget. So when time goes, and if you think like the cost is going to be more after some time, then it's a project manager responsibility to raise the risk in the rate log, or the flag it to the sponsor that, okay, the cost is going to increase because of this. So you need to come up with the mitigation plan, how you are going to resolve the things, right? How you are going to control the cost. Are you going to control the cost by taking extra measures? So that is the one thing. Third point is like important is like timeline, right? So again, the timeline is defined during the initiation of the project, right? What are the activities we need to do, how much each activity will require a particular time, who is going to work on those activities. So that way the project manager prepared the project plan or the activity plan, right? And it has all the timeline required for that project. Because of the various reasons, again, there are sometimes the estimation gets wrong, sometimes because of the readiness of the project, or business readiness, or not having the resources, you sleep the activities, or some of the activity takes longer time than expected, and then the time increase, right? And it's not because it's always mentioned in the project, right? You will deliver that project, or the project go live is this date, right? And somehow if the project is not going live in that date, then it's again a problem, right? So the project manager's work is to make sure that he's protecting the timeline. If there's a slippage in the any activities, he has to raise that into the risk, or he has to raise the flag, or he needs to work closely with the sponsor or stakeholders or the resources, how he can gain whatever the lost in the timeline. Is there any way we can put the additional resources? So timeline is very important, right? So project manager has to make sure that the timeline is properly controlled, and if there's a problem, then he has to raise that thing. So we talked about the cost, scope, timeline, the resource. That's a very important factor. If the project manager doesn't have the plan on the resource loading, then it's again the important thing, right? Because we require the right resources at the right time. If you don't have the right resources at the right time, I'm talking about right resource means right skill resource, right, on the right time. Right time means during that phase of activities. Like suppose in the starting we require the business analyst to capture the business requirement, then the developer is required to prepare the configuration development, then you require the testers to test the things, right? So I'm talking about all these kind of different type of resources. So we require the right resources at the right time. If you don't have the right resources at the right time, then there is a possibility to the time slippage, right? Your go live date might get delay, or you will get it will impact the funding or the costing of the project, right? So that's very important, the right resources. And again, the main thing is like a governance of the project, right? How you govern the project. Are you escalating the right things at the right time? Are you putting the risk issues and dependencies in the RAID log or not? How you are preparing the your fortnightly or weekly report to the sponsors? How you are giving the the status updates to the stakeholders, sponsors during your weekly reporting, or during your the governance committee board meetings, right? So that's very important. And ultimately the quality of the work, right? How you are making sure whatever the things gets produced during the project or it's get developed, it's with the proper quality, right? It's a quality check, the proper testing, proper auditing, all these things need to the matter. So I think these are the challenges with the project management. So you need to make sure that if you have these kind of challenges, so you have to take the adequate measures to make sure that your project or program will be successful. I hope you like this information. We'll see you in another brief. Till then, bye.